Since COVID has started, the Fifth Circuit, like so many courts, has transitioned over to Zoom oral arguments and non in-person proceedings. How has that experience been for you? Do you see it as a good thing? Has it been challenging? Has it been a little bit of both?
I'd say both. I mean, it's we're fortunate we have the technology to make it happen, so the cases can keep moving. Because these cases obviously matter a great deal to the parties, and our technology staff has been amazing. I mean, the technology has worked extremely well. I really haven't seen any problems with the technology, but it's not. I don't think anyone can say it is as good as in-person arguments. Part of that is the experience with the lawyers, and even the grandeur of coming to New Orleans and that beautiful courtroom and the building. But then also like I said, especially for us, not the judges not being in the same city like the Texas Supreme Court is, or the Texas Intermediate Appellate Courts are. It's really missing that interaction with colleagues and deciding the cases in the same room, working the cases out. There just isn't a substitute for that. But we are doing the best we can, and I think it's worked as well as it can, given the circumstances.
I've seen some cases that have been scheduled for argument, and then I think even on Zoom, but then have been basically had the arguments postponed. And the messaging I'm seeing is this sort of giving a glimmer of hope that the court hopes to resume in-person arguments at some point before too far distant a point in the future. Is that accurate, or does it just depend?
Well, I think it's everyone's hope that we can resume as soon as possible, but when that will be, I think like everyone else, I'm as uncertain of that as anyone. I wish I had some special insight for a variety of reasons, not just court-wide, but my children and everyone else's sake about when life will get back to normal. But I mean, that is, everyone is hoping that we can be back in New Orleans as soon as possible.
Have you seen anything in Zoom arguments that, tips that you could offer advocates that, hey, this has come up, you might want to think about this before you do one of these?
I think I think generally it's been, the advocates have been very good. I think generally there is a little more of a problem with talking over people than there is in person. So I think that's just something, to be aware that the judges may be about to talk, and you don't have as many of the visual cues that you have with an in-person argument. So that's a challenge. I think realizing that you're right there in front of the judges. In a real oral argument, the judges only are really focused on the person speaking. With the Zoom, you're really looking at both sides the whole time, so not reacting to what the other side's saying in a way that's not going to reflect well. I do think people have said, and I agree with this, having a less distracting background, like my background right now. You can see my bookshelves and my pictures on the wall, and that's sort of fun to look at, right? But I think for an oral argument, just having sort of a boring blank backdrop that's not going to be distracting.